In this video, I'm writing up and drawing a new one-shot D&D postcard adventure, and I want to share some of my favorite tips and tricks to help you create your own. Before I jump into the video, I want to let you know about the big Black Friday through Cyber Monday sale I have going on in my online shop. 25% off everything. It's the only time of year that I put everything on sale, and right now I'm standing in my office closet. This is where I pack and ship all of my orders from. I've just added Dragontown and The Darkness Below to the online shop. This is my first hardcover collection that's finally in the shop, ready to be shipped out. I've got the book and also a bunch of box sets ready to go. I've got all kinds of stuff crammed in here. Map drawing zines, dungeon drawing zines. I've got Starborg, my Star Wars inspired hack of Morkborg, a bunch of different zines for that game, Goons and Ghosts, Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons. This whole side of the closet is filled with all kinds of stuff, magic items, zines. I have a Shadow Dark adventure, a bunch of system neutral fantasy adventures, more drawing guides. This one's about drawing heroes. I also have drawing monsters if you want to learn how to draw some monsters. My newest zine in the shop is The Vault at the End of Time. This one's about a trans-dimensional vault with a bunch of crazy magic items and a time dragon and a beholder. Super fun one. Everything in this closet is 25% off through Cyber Monday, and as you can tell, I'm just a one-man show in here shipping out orders myself. So every order means so much to me. So I always give out a free sticker as well as a postcard dungeon. I'm actually down to my last 2 Ogre King of Hollow Hill postcards. So that means all of these sale orders are gonna get a new dungeon, and that's what I'm gonna make in this video. So let's get to it. Now, I've already written this postcard adventure, but I'm starting the drawing off in Photoshop. I like to just sketch and slowly add elements, changing stuff around, moving things, deleting, just having fun drawing a cool tavern map. Now, the writing process of this little postcard made me realize a few things of how I approach writing up fun adventures. And as you can tell, I've written a lot of tabletop role-playing game adventures, and at this point, I've got a few tricks on how I like to make them fun to run as the GM, but also super fun to play in as the players. Okay, my first piece of advice, you're gonna think I'm joking, but start off in a tavern. It's the cliched beginning to a fantasy adventure, bandit ambush, goblins have kidnapped the princess, you wake up in a jail cell. I think starting with a cliche helps get the adventure moving right away, and it takes some of the mental load off of a GM trying to wrangle the beginning of an ongoing adventure. You won't have to spend a ton of time explaining what a fantasy tavern is, or a dirt road through a dangerous forest, or what a goblin lair looks like. Your players get it, and you can just jump right in and start playing instead of being a GM blabbering and explaining and the players getting antsy. Now, you might be saying that playing through some cliche scenario doesn't sound super fun. So what I like doing is flipping the cliche on its head. Not only does this surprise and delight even the most jaded and experienced players, but it also is a fun exercise in creating your own spin on an adventure. So for example, this map that I'm drawing is the Rowdy Rat Tavern. The cliche beginning to a D&D adventure is the heroes meet in a tavern, the owner says they need help with some giant rats in the basement, and things go from there. But if we flip this cliche on its head, what if the tavern is run by a bunch of rat people and they've got some meddlesome humans causing trouble in the cellar? I personally think that sounds like a super fun hook, and it's easy to run with that idea and expand upon it. It's got the setting, some NPCs, and even some conflict baked right in, so great start to an adventure. Then the next thing I like to do is come up with some ways of making this place feel real. So even if it's just a fantasy cliche, you can have fun putting your own spin on it to make it fit the tone and the theme of your game. So for this adventure, I thought about what rooms would there be in this tavern? You know, it's got a big common room. There's a sleeping like bunks area. There's a privy, an office, a kitchen, and of course the cellar. And this is a tavern that the players are going to be spending time in. So there's got to be a fun menu, but you know, it's run by rat people. So they have stinky cheese and stale crackers, eggs, pickles, and honey. There's a garbage plate and a chocolate sludge cake. And this tavern is actually famous for its cave corn chowder, which they actually grow their own cave corn in a cave underneath the tavern. And coming up with a menu or something like that just adds a little bit of flavor, pun intended. So, you know, when the excited rat guy barkeep runs up and asks what the players want to eat, just by having this menu, I've already set a really clear picture of what this place is all about and the tone of the adventure. And that leads me right into the next two tricks I use to write these adventures. The first is treating the location like a playground. So I'm not writing out a story with a beginning, middle, and end. It's really just creating a setting with some conflicts that happen, and then the players get to get in there and mess it all up and see what happens. So to create a playground, I try to have between 1 and 3 things the players can interact with in each room or, you know, each little part of the location. Because this adventure takes place in a tavern, there are a lot of NPCs to talk to. I've got a classic mysterious stranger sitting in the corner, a goblin with food poisoning on the toilet, a troll locked in the office, and a chef that's trying to deal with a cockatrice on the loose in his kitchen. All of this stuff works in the tavern setting, but in something like a dungeon, you're probably going to have traps and patrolling guards, hidden magic items, monsters, of course, or you might just have like hints of what this location was before it became a dungeon. And you know, as I'm writing this stuff up, I'm not really thinking about how the players are going to interact in this situation. I actually have no idea. And that's the fun part of playing the game. Later on, you know, you play to find out, to see what happens. And once I have a bunch of ideas of how I'm filling up this playground, then you can use the next trick to turn it into an actual adventure. And this is kind of my favorite part of the writing process, especially for these one-shots, because everything needs to be super contained. All you have to do is like link it all together. And that's just asking why a bunch. Like any questions you have about things connecting, just ask why this thing is here, why that thing is there, and then thinking about how you can put as much conflict in there as possible. Okay, so what am I really talking about here? So in this tavern adventure example, we know that there's a group of rat folk that run this kind of fun, gross tavern, and there's some humans that are making trouble for them. So I just asked myself, why are these humans causing all this trouble? And I'm thinking about ways to insert conflict into this setting, into the adventure. And I came up with the idea that these ruffians were hired by a rival tavern owner to kind of run these rats out of town so he can get their business, because the rat tavern is way cooler than his kind of overpriced vanilla looking tavern. Then I'm just thinking about what sort of things would maybe get these rats to have to leave their tavern. So the ruffians are poisoning the food, hence the goblin on the toilet. They're stealing from the tavern, so the rats don't have money to pay the troll tax collector. And they're just trying to sabotage everything that they can. So they're letting a wild cockatrice loose in the kitchen. They're throwing stink bombs, you know, whatever they can do. And it's all creating this playground with a bunch of story conflict, and you naturally kind of come up with these weird characters. And anytime you get stuck and need some inspiration, just think about the cliche and how you can flip it. And what makes it a fun adventure is that when the players happen to walk into the middle of all this, all you have to do is slap some kind of reward there. You know, the owner of the Rowdy Rat Inn and Tavern offers the players free meals and beds for life if they can help solve this crazy problem. And then the players will have to get involved. They won't be able to resist. Now, if you'd like to get your hands on this Pests in the Cellar postcard adventure, check out my online shop. If you buy a physical zine or book, I'll throw in one of these with your orders. And don't forget, everything is on sale 25% off through Cyber Monday. I hope these little writing tricks were helpful and get you inspired to create your own tabletop role-playing game adventures. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.